And then what you do is you do this. You hold this up like you pretend to work. You should probably do that just so you pretend like something.
Nah, you good, bro. It's all you, Ralph.
Eli's just as studious. He got his dumb studious.
Alright guys, I'm going to pass around a notebook. Just write your name and your hall on there for me. Alright? No. And then when the page fills up, just flip to the next page.
Hey, guys.
Alright, hello everyone. Hi.
Hi.
How are you today? I know it is freezing cold outside, so hopefully your ears and fingers and nose are thawing out. Okay, so I think I met many of you in August we did training. So we're here to talk with you about disability justice, continue our diversity training. Everybody does know me. I'm River. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the Assistant Director of Multicultural Life and the Diversity Office. I have put the captions out for the disability tool partially because I laugh, and just because some people can process better if they read. I will apologize in advance because they are auto-generated, which means sometimes they say the wrong thing. I got my bachelor's from Bucknell University, my master's in PhD at the University of Maryland. I grew up in both the UK and the US. I am non-binary, queer, and white, and my family is full of wonderful neurodivergent people, and I'm also finding that I probably am also neurodivergent as well. You should be like, wow, it's really interesting that I'm the only one who's neurotypical. Yeah, that's not how it is. I am commonly found creating collage art and creating reminders and other edible things.
So cool.
Multicultural Life and Diversity Office. I recently graduated last spring, 2025, with a degree in exercise science, and my minor is in individuals with disabilities. Individuals with disabilities. Yeah, I'm sorry. But I'm happy to be with you all today. If I sound cold, it's because I am cold. I'm really, really low iron, so bear with me. Yes.
Okay, so our MLU staff, we have Anna Maria as our director, I'm the assistant director, and Kirsten is our program coordinator. Fortunately for her, our admin assistant has gotten a better job. Unfortunately for us, that means we are searching for a new admin person. We also wanted to highlight the Disability Resource Office, the folks who work there. So there's Summer Kapala, who's the learning strategist, this is from left to right. Jeremy D. Heinemann, who's the associate director. Sue from the director, Glenn Hawkins, who's an accessibility associate, and Casey Hickman, who's the technology accessibility administrator. So we always start our presentations, and many of you will be familiar with this poem, with an invitation to a brave space. Together we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world, we all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world, we amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere, we call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect, this space will not be perfect, it will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we'll work on it side by side. What do you think we need to do to create a brave space? Today, to talk about disability. Yeah. And Maroon sweater.
Oh, to be open.
Be open, yeah, what else? This is another way of saying, what are some of the guidelines we might want in the room? Yeah.
Watch how we phrase what we want to say.
I would say watch how you phrase things, but I would also say don't be too scared to say something, even if you're not sure you know the right way to say it, because we're here also to learn. So really welcome people saying, I don't really know what the right term is, or I'm not sure I'm saying this the right way. Because that intention and like thinking about our language is really
Guys, double tap and like the live.
being willing to learn is also part of that. We also ask folks to think about confidentiality, so if people are sharing their own personal stories, take what you learned from them, but don't, share their stories outside of the room, or give specifics if you're telling others like what you learned. And also we really encourage you, to step up, to participate, and also to create space for other people to participate as well. Oh, and I just kind of covered this, so, again, confidentiality, step up, step back, use of I statements, showing grace, and knowing that we're always learning. Okay, now we're losing track of.
It's okay.
Is it still good?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. This is my 4th RA training of like the week, or the last week and a half, so. So through this training, you're gonna learn how to understand and define disability in both the medical and social model. You're gonna learn skills to recognize and address ableism within your daily lives, community, on campus, and also learn various ways to make spaces more equitable for disabled folks. So, now I think it is. Yeah.
So we went over the first two, the introduction to the presentation and now we're at the overview. Today we're going to be going over disability reflection, dissecting disability. Then we're going to give you all a 5-minute break, but I'm pretty sure we'll talk about ableism comes first and then a 5-minute break. And then we'll go over how we can reframe our understanding of ability. And then the last period will be, River and I have been going over the themes of equality versus equity, allyship, and then continuing learning and resources.
So we're going to start with this activity, and we're going to do it first as, I think, pair share, since we're such a big group. So what do you think of when you hear the word disability? If it's helpful for you to write something down or type on a phone, what comes to mind when you hear the word disability? How do you think about that? Then turn to a partner, talk about it, and then we're going to create a concept web here of generated kind of words and concepts that come out. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So 1:15, we'll reconvene as a whole group. 4 minutes to think about it, talk.
Disability.
Yeah, so I ran out. I must have grabbed the wrong stack, but when we get to that point, I'll figure out
Oh shit, we just got 4 free minutes. Are you on live?
Taking like a history of life, I have to take a second out.
Yo, Rose on what live right now?
YouTube. So I have to do it,
Oh, is it?
do a story or something like that.
What?
That'll be interesting. Go to the teacher. I had
Yeah, we had RA training and Mikhail's on live, you know? Yeah.
I'm doing child psychology.
That's how it's gotta be. Just doing it for the fans.
I'm taking French, so I'm gonna kill myself. I have
Come
to,
on the back? Yeah.
I have to do one more semester and I don't know. So I'm fucked. So I guess I might just like have
What did she want us to do?
Talk.
I'm just gonna hopefully get past fail.
Here, chair, but what does the word disability mean to you?
Well, because I took French in high school.
I'm normal.
So that's why if I did Spanish, that'd be more than one semester.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I'll do it.
it was very nice. Yeah, it was. I'll show you a picture.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was one. And then I think I have a few more. So oh yeah, this was good with the snow. She lives in New York, but it's like right on the border.
for this?
We just ended up doing,
I ain't
this, like, the 1 year was like 2 days before we left.
I might fall asleep
It was
soon.
a class with you. So we ended up getting like the pizza, and we hung out, and we did gifts and stuff like that. We went to Canada for I got her the necklace, the charm, the pendant that she wanted. I got her
For me, I would
the
just say
scrapbook
like something
that I've
that
worked on for a
limits
while.
someone's movements
And
or
then I got
activities, or maybe just like a disadvantage.
I'm missing one thing. I got her the bikini that she go along.
So
And then
like
there's
I
one
would
other
say
thing.
like it's maybe sometimes it could be like a physical or mental condition
That was
that
kind of all
might,
one thing because
prevent
it was
someone,
like so close
from
together.
doing performing
So that's why
certain
I didn't mind doing
activities,
more.
or like it limits like the movements or something.
Alright, so, powder stud now.
So much art.
So, what came up in your conversation? Yeah, we had system powder. And so, I mean, you're welcome
Yeah,
to
like-
elaborate, others can ask questions, essentially. Or we can just build off of there. What else? What are some other things, yeah?
Empathy.
Say that again?
I said empathy.
Empathy? What else comes to mind? Yeah. Inclusiveness? Yeah. Yeah.
Assistance.
Assistance? What do you mean? Like, we're talking about it. I would just maybe just do it all, it's because we're all common. Assistance? Maybe I would ask, I might also talk about things like access as well, or access and support. Yeah. Different strengths? What else? What's that? Yeah. Challenge. Variety, okay. Challenge. And this is, I mean, people are like, I don't wanna say the wrong thing. We wanna try to get as many words that, whether it is a positive or negative, up on there, so we can think about, like, start it as a conversation of like, well, what are some of the maybe better ways to talk about this? Or what are the kind of assumptions that then come with potentially a word like challenge, or different? Like, what are all these connotations? Variety, if there's a variety of ways that we can talk about this, and some may have connotations of more than others. Yeah. Accommodation. What else? I think of kind of the difference between physical disabilities, so I might think like wheelchair user is a common, like, image, I think disability, wheelchair user. Yeah.
Resources.
Resources? Do you have something, like, what are you thinking about in terms of resources?
I mean, like, I'm deaf, like, I have accommodation, so it's like, there's certain resources, like, I got hearing aids, stuff like that. Like,
Okay, so like,
that's what I think of as
say that again?
That's what I think of as
Yeah.
resources.
Like, I'm needing particular resources in order to be, like, to link to accommodation. Yeah. Are there things that have negative connotations attached to the word disability? That folks can think of? Or negative stereotypes? Like, I don't wanna say them into the world, yeah.
Maybe with someone that has a disability needs help, like, I forgot, like, I know the words, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I mean, there could about someone as impaired as a noun that can, I would say that has a little bit more of a negative connotation. Okay, any other comments or thoughts? Yeah.
Like a stereotyping way of motivation would be like that, not a smart.
Mhm. Yep. And that can go with, like, a lot of our insults are ableist terms. So like when you said that, I thought of the word dumb, for example. That was used for people who can't speak or have an intellectual disability. Lame. Many people have said, oh, that's so lame. That is a word that means you can't walk. It's, again, coming from an ableist perspective. That's one word I've tried to take out of my vocabulary. Trying to think of other, there's so many words that just we casually use that are ableist. Yeah. Divergent or not neurodivergent, yeah. Which is a word I would say is more like a positive, like that's one people claim as something about different thinking. Okay, great. So we start this exercise, or we start this kind of training with this exercise so that we can think about what is the knowledge that we come in with, and what are some of the things that come to mind when we think about disability, as a way for us to then start our conversation about, well, how have we historically defined disability? How can we think about disability in different ways?
So there's two types of ways you can define disability. So first, on the left-hand side, the Merriam-Webster definition is a word definition, and it states that it's a physical, mental, cognitive, or developmental condition that impairs, interferes with, or limits a person's ability to engage in certain tasks or actions, or participate in typical daily activities and interactions. And then on the right-hand side, we have the ADA definition, which is more like so they break it down as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities of such individual, a record of such an impairment, or being regarded as having such an impairment.
And one of the things to note here is that it's basically kind of the definition, how we use this in speech versus the legal definition of how we understand disability under the law. And one of the things to note with the ADA is that it is also, with the last one, being regarded as having such an impairment. So it protects people who may be presumed to have a disability or who are treated in an ableist way, even if they don't actually have a record of a disability. So how should we talk about disability? So there's two kind of main ways that folks will frame this question of disability. So one is person first language, and the other is identity first language. Has anyone heard this kind of framing before? Identity first versus person first, some nods. Particularly if you are in a lot of fields that are like healthcare fields or working with folks with disabilities, there's a push for like person first language. And then within disability communities, there's often a push for identity first language. Neither one is correct or better than the other. Neither of the choices are wrong. It's just important to know kind of, again, what the history is of them. So basically, person first language puts the word person first before any reference to disability is made. It acknowledges that people who have disabilities are people first and are not just seen for their disability. So we see, for example, with folks who have Down syndrome, there's been a push to say, I have Down syndrome, instead of just a Downs girl, or this person is Downs. It's like, no, let's talk about a person with Down syndrome. On the other side, we have identity first language, which puts disability before the person and emphasizes a shared community, culture, and identity. It acknowledges disability as part of identity and as an aspect of diversity, instead of something to be ashamed of. Folks who use identity first language might say, well, we don't say a person has gay, or a person has woman. We would say, I am a woman, or I am a gay person, or I am, something. And that some folks feel like if you say I have a disability instead of I am a disabled person, it's putting disability as a negative thing. A lot of folks kind of within the autistic community, deaf community, and other communities tend to use identity first language over person first. I would say the main thing is just like ask people what they prefer, follow their lead, and yeah, until someone shares like what they prefer. I tend to use identity first language ahead of time, but you know, so it's also okay to use person first, and then find out what someone prefers. I would note that New York State law requires person first language, so that's what you'll find on Student Courtroom's website, talking about people with disabilities or like the Disabilities Resource Center.
So, you know, a lot of times talking about disability can be, I wouldn't say use the word uncomfortable, but there might be some hesitancy behind it. So we just want to encourage you to not dance around the word disability at all, or to not like, we want you to feel comfortable exploring what it is. So there are unhelpful euphemisms, sorry. And a few are differently able, handicappable, mentally and or physically challenged, special needs, twice exceptional, and rethinking abilities. A few of these have been mentioned. I'm not sure if this is the first one. Maybe a lot of different. It's a really different group. But in the summertime, Amber, I was kind of sitting in the audience and just observing River and Amber go over this presentation, and Amber shared with the handicapable euphemism. It's kind of something that you see every day. So when we think about parking, a lot of times you'll look at accessible parking, or you should use the term accessible parking instead of handicap parking. But this was a term that was used for a lot of veteran soldiers that were coming home from war. And instead of it being looked at as supporting them, a lot of people looked at them as beggars because they were in need of support due to, you know, their disability that came from, you know, fighting in war for our country. So we want to just make sure that we're avoiding these terms or
Yeah, and some of them like, I mean, I have a friend who prefers the term differently abled, and so of course I would use that for her. But one of the reasons we say that they're unhelpful is because some of them are so broad, like differently abled. Okay, what does that exactly mean? Yes, it's true, we all have different abilities, but that term doesn't allow us to talk about what's actually happening, which is if you are a disabled person, you are living in a society where you may have less access to things, or you may have particular needs that the term differently able doesn't help us understand. Yeah, and we have rethinking abilities on here. That was the original training, and then several of us were like, wait, I'm trying to get you to say the word disability and not have stigma to that, and yet we have titled our presentation without the word disability. So we've now changed the title to disability justice. So there's a couple different ways that we can think about disability, or like frameworks around disability. So one is the medical model, and this is one that's been particularly strong in Western society and in kind of the US. And this basically focuses disability as an individual thing that needs to be fixed. So it's like there's something quote unquote wrong with your body, and we need to fix it and make you know, preferably by a professional, such as a doctor, psychiatrist, until we can make someone normal or as normal as possible. So an example of this would be, for example, would be someone who cannot walk, having a lot of kind of work done, or like medical professionals trying to fix why they can't walk, versus saying, okay, you have an impairment, we would like to support you getting around. Let's figure out the best way for you to be able to get around. Maybe that's with a mobility aid. Maybe we need to change the environment that you're in, instead of trying to fix the body. The social model emerged in response to the medical model, and this is from a lot of disability justice activism, where disabled folks said, hey, it's not necessarily